Day 2 of factoring by using the distributive property. Solving equations by factoring. Zero product property. For any number, a and b, if a times b is equal to 0, then either a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0 or both a and b is equal to 0. Let me demonstrate. We have r minus 3 has to equal 0 or s plus 2 has to equal 0. This product is 0. Okay? So I either have to have r minus 3 equals 0 or r plus 2 equals 0 or both. Okay? So what we're going to do is r minus 3 equals 0. And down here, I need a little more space. Or r plus 2 equals 0. Add 3, r is equal to 3. If I put a 3 in for r, right there, it gives me 0. Or if I subtract 2, I get r equals a negative 2. And if I substitute the negative 2 in for r there, that one will give me 0. So my solutions for number 1 would be the r equals 3 or r is a negative 2. So negative 2 or 3. Number 2, same thing. We're going to go 4m plus 8 equals 0 or m minus 3 equals 0. Subtract 8, 4m equals negative 8. Divide by 4, m equals a negative 2. So if m was a negative 2, we get 0, or if m equals 3, we get 0. So negative 2 or 3. Number 3, remember, the products. The products, for it to be equal to 0, one of those numbers has to be 0. So either the 2x has to equal 0, or the 3x minus 4 has to equal 0. Divide by 2, x equals 0. Add the 4, 3x equals 4, divide by 3, x is equal to 4/3. Now you can leave it 4/3 or 1 1/3 or its decimal equivalent, whichever one you're happier with. Okay, so that was 1, 2, and 3. So now let's take a look at number 4 and 5. Just like yesterday, I have to first factor them. Okay, so a 4y can go into these. So 4y, and that would be 3y minus 2 is equal to 0. And then I have each of those. The 4y equals 0 implies y is equal to 0. Okay, when you divide each side by 4, you still get y equals 0. Or we have the 3y minus 2 equals 0. I would then add 2, and 3y equals 2, and then divide by 3, so I have y is equal to 2/3. So I have 0 or 2/3. If y was 0 or if y was 2/3. You try number 5. Okay, so on number 5, I'm going to factor out a 5p, and that's going to be 1 minus 3p equals 0. So for 5p equaling 0, that means p is equal to 0. And 1 minus 3p equals 0. That means I subtract 1 from both sides. I get negative 3p is equal to a negative 1. Divide both sides by a negative 3, and I get p equals 1/3. So I have 0 or 1/3. And hopefully I'm not making any mistakes. I don't have you guys to tell me if I made a mistake yet or not. Number 6. Same thing. Now, as all the other problems, they were equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is rewrite this. So it's 12x squared plus 3x equals 0. Now I have it so it is equal to 0. Now I can factor a 3x out, 3x, and then I have 4x plus 1 is equal to 0. So either this is equal to 0 means x is equal to 0, or the 4x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract the 1, I get 4x equals negative 1. Divide by the 4, I get x equals negative 1/4. So my two possible solutions would be 0 and negative 1/4. You try number 7. Now on number 7, you are going to have to remember that you're going to group it because there's 4 of them. You're going to You're going to do some grouping and then factor. So now my first two terms, I can factor out a 3x. So 3x, and then that will leave me with a 3x minus 1. Bet you didn't think I was going to catch that mistake. And then the other one, I factor out a 2, and that would give me 3x minus 1 as well, equals 0. So that means I have 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 1 equals 0. Each of those separately, one of them has to equal 0, and or the 3x minus 1 has to equal 0. Subtract the 2, so that's 3x equals negative 2. Divide by the 3, x equals negative 2/3. On the next one, add 1 to both sides, I get 3x equals 1. Divide both sides by 3, I get x equals 1/3. So my two possible solutions would be the negative 2/3 or the 1/3. And you can always resubstitute either of those back in to see if you get a 0, to see if it works. All right, let's take a look at number 8. Now, number 8, we're doing this one because I know at some point you're on a test, you're going to have questions that are like this, some word problems, okay? And there is a whole long story problem that went with this, but basically, a jump can be modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 20t, where h is the height of the jump in t seconds. Find the values of h equals 0. So if I just noticed my little speaker symbol is on mute. Well, we'll see what happens. So find when h is equal to 0, so that means we're going to have 0 is equal to a negative 16t squared plus 20t. I can get a 4t out of each of those, so 4t, and then that would be a negative 4t plus 5. So either 4t equals 0 or a negative 4t plus 5 equals 0. Divide by 4, I get t equals 0. And here I subtract the 5, negative 4t equals a negative 5. And then divide each side by negative 4, I get t equals 5/4. Remember, the time is in seconds. So I have two numbers. I have a 0 and a 5/4 seconds. What do you think that represents? Think about it. We're jumping. So if we had a graph, okay, now my graph might not be proportional, but if we had a graph at 0 seconds, I'm going to be at a height of 0 feet. I haven't jumped yet. And then at some point, I'm going to make a jump. And as I make a jump, okay, so there I did it. I made a jump. That's 12 feet, but I thought I'd have to keep it on this sheet of paper, so we're diagramming it a little smaller just because I can jump vertically 22 feet. Just kidding. Okay, moving on. What do you think this is right here? Yeah, notice I paused there. I'm trying to make you think about it before I give you the answer. Some of you might have thought of it already. If my start of my jump is at 0 for height, this is my height, this is my time, eventually going to land back on the ground again. Okay? So this right here is t time 5/4 seconds. That means it is 1 1/4 seconds. So when I jumped, because I can jump so high, I was able to hold in the air for 1 1/4 seconds. Yeah, you guys are thinking that's not that long. Try it. See how you do. All right. So go ahead. Your assignment for this stuff is going to be what you haven't done yet.
Exactly.
So it is going to be page 479 to 480. And again, you're going to do the problems you haven't done, evens, 2 through, let's go to 46, 2 through 46. Good luck. Have a great weekend and do your best in your STEM project tomorrow. Thank you.